Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we are doing Married at First Sight season 11 episode 12, 1 month down and a quarantine. So in this episode we're going to be talking about everybody's anniversaries and as they look back from the month that they've been together, along with looking back at their actual wedding day, and then also facing what, of course, we now know of at that time was the beginning of a national lockdown. So, please, if you haven't subscribed, smash the subscribe button, like the video if you choose so, and comment down below and engage in the channel, and let's get this video started. So the first couple we're going to start with is Henry and Christina. And oh my gosh, Henry and Christina either take one step forward, one step back, and then another step forward and another step back. So let's see what happens this week. So Kristen, Henry's friend, came by, and it's interesting because Henry's, he has an interesting relationship with Kristen. I mean, every time they show her, the viewers are wondering if she's the one that got feelings for Henry. She's almost kind of territorial about that when it comes to him, and she definitely wasn't a fan of Christina at the wedding. She was probably one of his friends that was most vocal about Henry being, with Christina, and judged her before, she even knew her. But of course, as they got to know each other in a close environment, Kristen definitely was right on some of her vibes. But she was also the same one that said that she was going to respect his marriage, even though she didn't consider it real. But she she definitely gave him some heartfelt advice. But it wasn't coming from a place where one of his friends that was rooting for him, So she did remind him that he shouldn't have to change to be with someone else who wants to change him, or, change who he is. And I agree with that. You should never want to change, but in a marriage it's a little bit different. He has to choose to do that. She can't change, make him change. But at what point does he want to make this work? You're going to have to do some compromise and some stepping up just as much as she's going to have to do. So then Christina also had her friend Chris come over, and, this is the same guy that was at the housewarming party. And Christina had mentioned to him that, she's used to having sex with someone by now. She's not used to waiting for a guy to show interest. And she also mentioned that there are plenty of men who wanted to marry her. It's just the weird thing to say is that she actually finds some things that she would have never had took notice before that she really likes in Henry. And the thing is, usually she says she'll gonna jump the guy's bone within the first date, and it's been 30 days, and Henry is nowhere near any of that, So, I just think that either she needs to take the initiative, and if she's not ready to, then this is probably not going to be the best situation for her, or the best, person that she want to choose to stay in the long run with, And even her friend Chris told her the same thing, like, maybe you need to push him along a little bit, and see if that works. And then that's the other problem with that too, because if you push somebody that's not comfortable, it might make the situation worse. As I always said in my previous episodes, Henry and Christina should have never been paired. I actually think Christina would be better with Brett, and actually Olivia maybe would be a better fit with Henry, because I think the personalities are similar. But, at the end of the day, she's willing to see if she can work on this with him and not compare him to her exes. So they actually did the look back after 1 month anniversary. and they were looking at some of their pictures. But one thing about Christina, she tend to make these snide comments and then say, "Oh, I'm just joking. Oh, I'm just joking." Like she said something about the pictures. "Oh yeah, this was better days, wasn't it?" "Oh, I'm just joking." And Henry is like, "How many times you gonna say that?" I mean, it's one thing, if he was truly joking, but it sounds like a snide dig at whatever she's talking about. And, she covered it up with the term, "Oh, I was just joking." So I'm glad Henry peeped that, but it was interesting that Christina said, "Dang, we kissed more at the wedding than we spent in the last 30 days. That's interesting. That they were more comfortable. They're more comfortable on that day versus the 30 days that they've been there. But I know a lot of things have happened in the past 30 days. So, I mean, honestly, that might work for Christina, is to stop comparing him to any of her exes, because if the exes were any good, you would still be with one of them. So, I mean, really, Christina? I mean, it's not fair to compare anybody with anyone else. So hopefully, we'll see where it goes. But looking at upcoming episodes, I don't know, it might get kind of crazy especially with this quarantine happening. But in this particular episode, it looked like they might have took a half a step forward by her, trying to work this out, and him being a little bit more relaxed in their conversation. But it remains to be seen. So we'll definitely see what happens with Henry and Christina. So let's go into our next couple, Brett and Olivia. And what the heck happened with these two? Olivia has expressed that Brett is two different people. And so she arranged for them to have a meeting with Pastor Cal. And she shared that Brett behaves differently in front of the camera than off. However, it's ironic that after a glimpse of some of the camera footage, which we'll see, it seems like they're both totally different people, especially from what she said last week. But before we get into that, so she got this big smile on her face like, yeah, I know Pastor Gail is going to get him together. And so she was saying, how uncomfortable she's, he seems like he's acting one way versus the other. And he's like, honestly, it would be naive to think that the cameras don't exist. They're here. And like I've always said, Brett is brutally blunt. What comes up comes out, and obviously this is who he is. Though I think sometimes he maybe need to think first before he speak. Absolutely. But here's the scene what I was referring to, and I'm hoping I try to get a good shot. But the thing is, last week I remember Olivia saying things like she was acting squeamish, she didn't want him to touch her, and I'm not comfortable with affection. But you got this dude is laying in your lap, you kissed him twice, and then y'all grabbing each other on the couch. I'm like, who's looking different in front of the cameras versus behind the scenes? Look more like you too, Olivia. So I don't know what you're talking about, because you acted a whole different way last week. Like you didn't want to be touched, and I don't like affection, and all this kind of stuff, and y'all are over each other on the couch without the cameras. Anywho, but what I do like in this conversation with Pastor Cal is that he called her to task. When she said, "I don't believe him," she was like, "Why don't you?" "Oh, it's all confusing, his sarcasm." And he was like, "Nah, I think it's deeper than that. I think it's deeper than that, and I think it's your fear." And that, you know, I just don't think that it's all in his situation. You afraid of getting hurt. And she was like, "Yeah, I'm afraid of getting hurt. I need, I'll trust somebody until they prove me wrong." And I'm like, really? I don't think so. Because you don't trust him. And I mean, that's somebody you signed up to marry. And just like Pastor Cal said, the root of the problem is not per se a lot of his issues. It's your fear. Because one thing, he is straight up, he is sarcastic, yeah, and that might rub people the wrong way. But most of this is her fear and her perception. Because, like he says, how are you going to ever see me genuine if your perception is that I'm always disingenuous? Anything I would tell you, you will never believe it if your perception of me is that way. So she had a sit down conversation with him saying, I'm going to need you to fix something. And I need you to fix your sarcasm because it come off as mean. You say I'm mean when when I talk to you, or I'm saying that it comes off mean when you're sarcastic. And he just sat there and he was looking like, well, you need to call me out when I'm doing it because I don't recognize it. And she's looking like, because I'm like, don't start a fight. He's just trying to tell you, you need to let me know because this is normally who I am. So point it out when you see it. And she was like, the look on her face was like, how can you not know? Because it's been ingrained in him. You see it from the outside looking in. He see it as his normalcy. So you're going to have to call it out, Olivia. So anywho, they had a conversation and, they came to, I guess, some form of agreement. They hugged it out, and he seems very, very touchy-feely because the way he was, really rubbing into her back. And I'm surprised she didn't pull away like last week, but it's all very interesting. I just think Olivia nitpicks, and he has his issues too. They both do. So they actually did their 1 month anniversary as well, and they did look back at their actual wedding day. And, it actually put a smile on her face, to see how happy they were in the moment and, how they recited their vows and even put a smile on Brett's face, and they were actually very affectionate. I'm surprised maybe somebody told Olivia, you just been put on blast, because now she's extremely comfortable with his arm around her. She's sitting all up on him. Yeah, you got called out. You probably didn't know those cameras was in the apartment while you trying to act like, oh, I'm squeamish. I don't want to be touched. But this particular situation, she seems a lot more comfortable. So we'll see what happens with these two. Let's move on to Karen and Miles. And Karen and Miles started out in the park. Some of the best moments that they have are usually when Woody and Amani are around. But, Miles and Karen tend to hang out with each other. They have such a camaraderie that they feel like, that they're somewhat friends. But I guess the thing about this is that Miles is trying so hard. And her walls are just titanium. I mean, it's slowly, softening. But, he threw a little game about 2 truths and a lie. And he took his turn. But there was something interesting when she said you didn't learn how to swing till you was 12. He was like, haha, yeah, funny. Now, he could have been joking, but his facial expressions was like, look, I'm about tired of you throwing digs at me. But I could be wrong. Just my perception. Anywho, so then they actually flipped it. And, he was asking, well, she was asking him questions about the 2 truths and a lie. And, she said stuff about the fact that she was in a pageant and she played double dutch. And I think the double dutch thing was a lie. But the issue is she had to, he had won. The dare was to get tattoos. And she's looking like, what do you mean? You set me up? And he was like, wait a minute. This is something that you said you wanted to do. So now I'm holding you to it. And the look on his face was like, okay, now what? I really truly think he's slowly cracking when it comes to Karen, but not in a good way because he's getting tired. And it's unfortunate. We're probably going to see a lot of that next week. But again, they have great scenes with Woody and Amani. So they met up with them for lunch. And they was talking about how everything is going. And the interesting thing about him is that he was talking about compliments. When she come in the door, I'm telling her how good she looked, but I get dressed up and everything. She says nothing. And he went in hard on that in front of Karen, and you can tell she was extremely uncomfortable about the fact that he was putting her on blast. And I mean, granted, Woody is one of his best friends, and Amani's pretty cool with her, but she was not feeling that at all. That she was being called out by Miles about not giving expressions. So they actually had a sit down again, and he bought her a gift for their 1 month, and it was a Black Love couple shirt with different couple characters on television. And he seemed really, excited about it. She was like, "Oh, this is nice." And I'm like, "Oh my God." And I see why he's getting slowly frustrated. Because in his head it's like, what can I do with this girl? I try to show I'm genuine. I try to show tokens of affection. I'm giving my true self. I'm being vulnerable with her. And she's just like, "Oh, okay." So, I mean, honestly, she seems like she's slowly having a slither. But he's like, that's showing commitment. And this is something that I'm expecting long lasting. And she looking like, yeah, okay. We'll have to see about that. So they also got a chance to look at their photo album as well, looking back at their wedding. And they, recited their vows. And, she read her vows and stuff and he's, "Oh, don't shed a tear," is what he told her. It is just so unfortunate. And I understand fear can be so debilitating, especially when you've been hurt. That's why it's extremely important to try to process and work through whatever pain or trauma that you have, because if you don't, you risk hurting somebody that comes into your life that's genuine, and the cycle continues, And Miles is being really, really, really nice to her and respectful, being a gentleman. He takes what he's doing extremely seriously. And the conversation that Pastor Cal kind of had with Olivia, he needs to have one with Karen. Let's get to the deeper issue of what's going on with your fear. So I'm surprised she allowed him to touch her on her leg. And it's interesting that production cut to that scene 3 times. I know he didn't touch her 3 times. They just kept repeating that scene. But obviously they did that for a reason, because they wanted the fans to know, oh my God, she allowed him to actually touch her. Because I haven't seen that in a while. So we'll see what'll happen, especially next week previews. Oh my gosh. Let's move on to Woody and Amani. And they've been having a very smooth sailing experience for the most part of these first 30 days. They are so enjoyable as a couple with their personalities. They actually need their own show. I've been seeing that in some of the comments and some of the groups I'm on social media, because they helped other couples and they tend to speak to their own relationship. So one of the things that Amani spoke to was finances. Finances was the same issue that came up with Olivia and Brett a few weeks back too. And this is kind of mimicking the situation, because Woody is a person who loves spending money on dates and clothes. So he wants to spend $150 a week on dates and almost $500 to $1,000 on clothing. And she like, dude, $600 a month on date when we can do something cheaper? And he was like, okay, yeah, we can change that. But our clothing situation is different. Obviously, he must make pretty good, because he's like, hey, I make the money, I want to spend it. Who does that sound like? Olivia. Who does making the budget sound like? Brett. With Amani doing that. So I'm hoping this doesn't come a big issue, but we'll see. So Woody decides to go and pick out a nice little gift for Amani, and he goes to this jewelry store, and he's looking at diamonds. At first, I was like, I know you ain't finna buy a new ring. I don't know what the rules are with the show with that, but it wasn't a ring. He was actually looking at bracelets and earrings, and he actually found a pair of diamond earrings for her. Oh, they look so cute. And I think for a 1 month anniversary for what they're doing in this experiment, I think it was a pretty good idea. So you guys let me know what you think. So they gift wrapped everything and it was really, really nice. I like the fact that, he likes to do nice things for her. And he's also creative with it. So we'll see later in the show her reaction to the jury. So again, they met up with Miles and Karen. And Karen and Miles are talking about adopting dogs. And what did they want to say that for? Because Amani's face lit up like a Christmas tree. And Woody is like, oh my God, not again with these dogs. Obviously, he's not a dog fan. Granted, there are tons of dog lovers. I probably have dog lovers listening to, this video. When my oldest daughter brought in a dog this summer, my face turned like Woody's because I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so much work. And honestly, it was, but at the same time, I fell in love with the dog. I did, even though we had to let it go. But you never know, Woody, and at the same time, Amani is going to be work. So both of y'all got to remember that. So they had their 1 month anniversary, just like everybody else. And they actually had conversation about how it's been from day one. They were looking back over the 30 days and how wonderful it's really been. Amani made them a nice dinner and they just spent quality time together, and things like what they're doing is necessary for couples to have a date night. And like Amani said, even if you don't want to spend $150, you can be creative with something and it don't even cost that much, but it's the quality of the date versus, oh my God, I spent $200. You know what I mean? And so I look like to me they got great resolution skills when it comes to things that they might have a slight disagreement on, but I think they'll be fine. So they would look back at all of their pictures, and I mean, oh my goodness, Woody was like, my sweets look fine. She is just so beautiful, And Amani, she's a pretty girl. Her melanin is popping. His melanin is popping. I mean, honestly, they are a gorgeous, gorgeous couple. They took some great wedding photos. And they actually recognized that. They was recognizing how beautiful their wedding was, even though this is an experiment, but they actually see it as a marriage outside of like Karen, who says, I don't feel like I'm married. So, anywho, they were expressing, how happy it's been so far. And, they had their ups and downs. I think Amani hair was too cute, even though she looks like a little girl. But, I mean, when you have natural hair, it's easy to, especially if you know how to manage it, you can come up with some cute low maintenance styles or protective styles. So he gave her the gift. I was looking forward to this particular scene because I wanted to see her reaction. And she was like, oh my God, thank you. These are so nice. And he was like, wait. I think you might got something else. Take a look in the bag. And when she looked in the bag, she realized she had coupons. I love those. I've used them in the past when significant others that I have. And they are really, really cool. And especially, this is something obviously that was extremely inexpensive, but thoughtful and quality came with it. It was like a massage and dinner and a date and sex in the shower and quickie. And I'm like, boy, boy, boy. That's the Scorpio in him because, hey, she's a Virgo. He's a Scorpio. That's why she's so grounded. And you know how the Scorpio zodiac sign is. They are very, very physical. So she redeemed the foot massage coupon. And he was like, oh, absolutely. I am definitely ready to oblige and give you the foot massage, and she was definitely all in for it. She was relaxed, she was happy, she was enjoying herself. And the only other thing I forgot to mention is that she says that even though she's not ready in that moment to tell him, she's getting there, that she loves this man. Now, I've seen the previews for next week, and I hope production ain't sending us up for a loop. But oh my God, I've been rooting for this couple since day one. I hope there's no crazy monkey wrenches in this thing, cause the quarantine was really really a big thing. Everybody unexpected, so we'll see what happened with this couple next week as the quarantine begins. So let's move on to our last couple, which is Amelia and Bennett. And I'm telling you, Bennett and Amelia is one of the coolest, most genuine couple that I've seen. And they live life on their terms. I don't care what it is. So let's talk about Bennett's friend, Molly, and also his yellow friend, Yoop, because obviously it seemed like Yoop has lived with Bennett before. But she's also into tarot cards. So she decides to um, read the tarot cards and see what his future with Amelia holds. And it's all pretty interesting. Much as I talk about like zodiac signs on the entertainment level of things, I've never been really into deeply with tarot cards or anything. But she was saying that one of the results was is that they might be too much in love than what they realize, or something like that, or it's not as it seems. And it was pretty interesting, but I think Bennett took it as a grain of salt. And then too, she asked him about the move, and he was like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So Amelia also sat down with her friend Cyril, and it was just basic conversation. She was like, how is he? Does he like to cook? What does he like to do? And had they had sex yet? And Amelia's like, and that's good too. And she was like, I really like how everything has been going, and that we fascinate each other. I like how we are with each other. And she, Cyril was like, I'm happy for you guys. So it wasn't too much. They're just basic conversation. And the fact that she says that, she feel like she's going to be in love with them. So they're going on a hike, and we see Bennett trying to stretch his back. And then they come out. They didn't actually show the love scene. I guess they wanted the private, secret moment to themselves. But afterwards, he told the world that I told her that I'm in love with her. And then she was like, you know what? I love you too. And he was like, really? Really, really? I thought that was cute. These two, I'm for it. Like I say, they don't care. They don't judge each other. They don't care if people judge them. They live life on their terms. Hey, go for it. So he surprises her, popped in the door, popped out the door, popped back in the door. He's so silly. He brings in this huge 3-speed, I think, blender. I think it's 3-speed. And she was so excited about that because I think their original blender or juicer had broke down. So that's what simple things. He knows exactly, I know what to make her happy because I know what she needs. I'm going to go out there and get that. And he definitely went out and got the blender. And for him, she decided to play her guitar and her harmonica and sing him a song designed specifically for him and their 1-month anniversary. And I just think they are so creative. they can come up with anything and make it look like a beautiful thing. And I just think that that type of creativity is just beautiful in people because it's not forced, it's not throwing money around, it's not trying to impress or overly impress. It's just natural, organic, and creative. So I am so for this with them. I love the fact that they can do that and they appreciate whatever each other gives, no matter how big or how small, So they also get the chance to receive the basket with their vows, and they look back at their wedding and they're just happy. I mean, there's nothing really I can see except to see what's going to happen with the move. And from the way it sounds through the previews, look like she might be going to Richmond. So I'm thinking Richmond, Virginia, possibly. But we'll see. But I mean, yeah, they look back at their wedding and talking about the fact that, of course they knew each other, but it didn't deter them. It wasn't like a situation where Karen was like, I know this man and I don't know if this is who I should be with. They knew each other and was like, oh yeah, this is probably our second opportunity because we missed each other the first time because Bennett was in another relationship at the time, but now he's free and they're free to be with each other and they are just so happy and in love. So we'll see how it goes. So let's do post notification shout out, you guys. If you want a shout out, just comment down below and I will shout you out. The first one goes to Ice Cat. Thanks so much for engaging the channel. I really appreciate it. Next is Leona Henry. Thank you as well so much for engaging in the channel. I appreciate you as well. And last but not least, Jennifer D. Thank you so much as well. So guys, I see you watch the videos. Subscribe, like, comment, and I'll provide the content and we'll see you next week.